It's probably no surprise to all of you who are watching that battleships are my favorite class in World of Warships Legends. I spend an inordinate amount of time talking about how I think they should best be played. And last time I discussed this subject, I said the primary goal of the battleship is to find a place on the map where the enemy team has to push past its guns in pursuit of some objective. Now, I have a great example of doing just that in the legendary tier IJN battleship Yamato. And by the way, during this game, I'm running the new ARP Yamato commander, who I think is excellent for the ship. She synergizes very well if you use Azurlane, New Jersey as an inspiration. Any shells that travel past 10 kilometers in range to hit the enemy do extra damage when they make contact, if you have both of those things going on at the same time. Although this video isn't really about that. Now, I think battleships as a class are misunderstood and often misplayed. The goal really is to set up crossfires. And I hear all the time that people say this is unrealistic because nobody ever gives you broadside. It's not about people giving you broadside, it's about taking it. And one of the ways you can do that is by playing the center of the map. Note that we've spawned in the center and we are not going to leave it for this game. Why? Well, because from this position, we're going to have the broadsides of the enemy ships pushing toward either Alpha or Charlie. And all we have to do is turn our ship and our guns in the right direction to take advantage of this. You can see it happening already with the Schlieffen, the Colbert, the Yamato, and another cruiser near the Yamato that is pushing in toward the Alpha Cap. Right now, Schlieffen is giving the most broadside, so well, he gets punished for it, as you can see by one of our teammates, and we launch our spotter plane into the air for extra dispersion. Doesn't seem like it really helps us because we only hit him for 8k, which is, kind of a weak opening salvo, but that's okay. Right now, we're reversing closer into the center, and note, if you look at the minimap, were we to turn our camera toward the Charlie Cap, which I don't know if we're doing that now, I think we're still going after the Yamato and the Schlieffen over here. But if we were to turn our camera and look toward the Charlie Cap, we would also have the broadside of the battleship that is peeking into that cap, and we'd have not quite the broadside of that Des Moines. We have noticed them now, and it's just a simple matter of turning the ship. We also, as I've discussed before, build our battleship for concealment. We've got the concealment mod on Yamato, and one of the inspirations on our commander build is a rank 16 Kondo, who further buffs the concealment of the battleship class. So you notice when our guns are silent, we go dark. That allows us to reposition without being shot, and it allows us to continue this reversed turn so that we've got our broadsides pointed at, well, this side of the map where nobody can shoot them, and we've got our bow pointed toward Alpha, where if anybody shoots us, the shells are just going to bounce off harmlessly. We're aiming at the Des Moines, of course, because he is a radar cruiser, and the biggest threat to the destroyer we have playing on that flank, who you can see is hiding behind an island. We take down the Des Moines for our first kill of the game, and Giuseppe Verdi. Here's a guy doing the thing that I think most battleship mains think battleships are for, which is you push in toward an objective, you stop, you bow tank the enemy, and then you reverse when things are getting too hot. But this guy has lost half of his HP, which is no coincidence. Sitting there bow tanking, he's vulnerable to torpedoes, being farmed by HE spam, and he's vulnerable to me getting his broadside as he reverses enough. He goes down very easily. The enemy team has lost 4 ships, thanks in part to the damage we've done, but we are not done yet because we've still got this side of the map to worry about. We have Schlieffen and Yamato in the same grid square pushing forward. Once again, one of the worst moves you can make in a battleship is by putting them in the same grid square as each other, but we've got to ignore them for a second because this initial Schlieffen has somehow managed to survive the onslaught of everybody directly in front of him. Of course, he's giving broadside to us as he comes around that corner, so he's dead for our second kill of the game. And that just leaves the Yamato, the Schlieffen, the cruiser, which I think is a Colbert, and some destroyer that remains as of yet unspotted. Once again, we haven't left the center of the map because it hasn't been necessary to do so. We have the broadsides of all of these ships right now. Take one shot at the Schlieffen, one shot at Yamato. Think the shot against Yamato should, at least in theory, be more lucrative, considering, yep, there's the Citadel, two Citadels in fact, for 50k damage. This is what I mean by finding a place on the map where the enemy team has to push in toward an objective and go past your guns in order to get there. Obviously, they spawn, south of the Alpha Cap, so they've got to push north into it if they want to take it. And our guns are right there to dissuade them from continuing on that course. You see, they're firing back at us too, but we are angled away. We have our bow pointed away in case we need to disengage or lengthen the distance between the two of us so that we can go dark. And we can get all our firepower on target rather than just the front two guns. Of course, we haven't taken a lot of damage throughout the course of this match either, but it hasn't been necessary. A lot of people will tell you the primary goal of the battleship is to quote-unquote tank, because the battleships have the best armor and the most HP. And to some extent that is true, but as far as tanking goes, I see it as more of an incidental role of the battleship, unless you're playing something that's a dedicated brawler type thing, like a German maybe, or an Italian battleship, or even a Russian one. Those particular ships don't necessarily have the best gun power at longer to medium ranges. Their goal is to push in, and probably to play a flank as they push in. Something like the Yamato, though, is much more of a medium to long range sniper, and it's best suited for using its gun power to exert map control, which is what we're doing. You see, we have two other battleships that are at the border of the map. That's what all of these guys are concentrating on. And because I'm here and those guys are near the border of the map, well, these three enemy ships have to choose. Do they angle against me or do they angle against the two battleships on the border of the map? They can't very well do both. And that is what is known as a crossfire. You don't want to be in the same location as your battleship teammates. You want to be far away from them. Whether that's in the center, like where I'm playing, or whether that's on a flank, it doesn't matter. You want degrees of separation between yourself and your battleship teammates so that you can set up crossfires. And as this Schlieffen, this Colbert, and this Yamato push further into the cruiser that's smoked up and the battleship on the border of the map, they continue to give broadside to me. Finally, one of them gets a decent hit on us, but Des Moines, who is bow tanking toward the two friendly ships, is giving broadside to me, so we take him out for our third kill of the game. We're up to 154,000 damage done now, and Schlieffen is also still broadside. The enemy destroyer was just spotted, by the way, on the other side of the map, north or northeast, I guess, of the Charlie Cap, so he's going to be absolutely no threat to us. Of course, if he were near us, we would have known a lot longer ago because our detectability is 13.1 kilometers by sea. And there, by the way, I think you get a little taste of Yamato as the commander working in action. These guns are doing a lot of damage. Schlieffen goes down. That just leaves the final enemy destroyer, who is quite near one of the blue cruisers, and the enemy Yamato, who is now pushing in now that all of his teammates are dead. He's bow tanking the cruiser and the battleship directly in front of them, him giving broadside to us, and so we're able to take advantage of that, and that is our fourth and final kill of the game. If only we could spot the destroyer, we might be up for a Kraken, but, well, it's not going to pan out that way. So we end the proceedings here with 189,000 damage done, 4 kills, and the high caliber medal. Surprisingly, we're not actually going to be on top of the leaderboard. That honor is going to go to another battleship, actually. I think the Yamato, who, to be fair, probably did spend most of this game playing one of the flanks and bow tanking. But, you know, this is a team game. So somebody has to be in front of the enemy team tanking. Somebody's got to be on their broadside. There's not zero value in doing that kind of thing, but the key is the power of the battleship is its ability to exert map control due to the threat of being able to dev strike ships at long range. And that, especially, I think, is how you want to play the Yamato. So the battle ends, of course, with our glorious victory, respectable amount of damage done, and we come in second, just behind the other friendly Yamato, who gets about 100 more XP than we do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some food for thought. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.